In the last class, basically, you have seen the basic definition of a signal, characteristics of signals, characteristics based on the types, characteristics based on the physical characteristics. As an example, even odd signal, periodic, non-periodic signal, energy power signal, and then we have seen system, a total digital processing system. I have seen and some basic characteristics of system we have seen, that is stability, instability, causality, linearity, time variant, invariant property, static dynamic property, that all we have seen. There are some basic elementary signal that all of you already know, but just I am recapturing two or three types of elementary signals. One is the unit impulse signal. Unit impulse signal, for each it is defined by delta n. Value of delta n will be 1 only for n equal to 0. At a point n equal to 0 it will be 1, otherwise it will be 0. It is defined as delta n 0. So this is basically your unit impulse signal. Similarly, you have the unit step signal. The characteristics of unit step signal is that for 0 to positive infinite range you will get values as 1, but minus 1 to minus infinite range you will get the value 0. For all the positive range you will get a value 1, but in the negative range you will get 0. Unit ramp signal is what? Unit ramp signal is defined as, if it is defined as u or n, it will be n for n greater than equal to 0, otherwise 0. Means if we consider point 1 in the x-axis, in the y-axis also you will get 1, and it will increase like that. Means what? Means for a specific value of time you will get a specific amplitude range, and it will be with a slope. There is another signal, unit exponential signal. So basic property of unit exponential signal is that it will be defined as, sorry, xn equal to a to the power n for all the value of n. That signal is an exponential signal if a that we are considering is real, then xn that a will get also real. And if we consider a is imaginary, suppose a equal to r e to the power j theta, if we consider a equal to r e to the power j theta, then you will get an imaginary exponential signal. That all of you know. So I'm not going through all detail. What are the basic advantages of DSP, digital signal processing, over the analog signal processing? The first advantage is that its accuracy. Considering to analog signal processing, its accuracy is very high, because whenever you will send an analog signal like that, To send an analog signal from one receiver end, one transmitter end to another receiver end, the signal value at any point, suppose at that point you are transmitting 5, but in the receiver end, yes, this is the advantage of digital signal processing. Advantage of digital signal processing over analog signal processing. The first advantage is the accuracy. Accuracy means if we apply an analog signal, or simply if we transmit an analog signal from a transmitter and we are receiving that analog signal to a receiver end, what happens that due to the noise, suppose this point provides you amplitude 5, it may be 5.1 or it may be 5.2, so it changes, and whenever you are receiving the changed data. But in digital, what happens, you are representing 5 by 0 and 1, and that 0 and 1 remains always 0 and 1. It never be 0, 0.0 or 0, 0.1, 0.2 like that. So it will always be 0 and 1. So whenever you are transmitting 5 at the receiver end, it will receive as a 5. So accuracy of digital signal is more higher with respect to the analog signal. Second is that the digital signal can be easily stored in a magnetic media without any loss of data. See, before few days, few years, all of we have used floppy drive. Then we have used compact disc. Then now we are using pen drive. So obviously, what happens? Obviously, in digital media, you can store more data constant to the analog. And also, as it is represented by the 0 and 1, there should not be any data loss over a decade. That is another advantage. Next advantage is that, number 3 advantage, that you can manipulate the data by using algorithm. That algorithm will manipulate all the data that you are using. But in analog signal processing, to change the data or change the signal, you have to manipulate the system. You have to go under the device that you have designed. You have to process the design. You have to change the design. But in DSP system, what happens, if you want to manipulate the data, just you need to change your coding. You don't need to control, or you don't need to manipulate your device. Or reconfiguration of signal is very easy in your digital system, but in analog system, reconfiguration of one signal from another, it is very tough. Suppose you are trying to reconfigure the signal, you need to add the bit. But in analog signal, if you want to reconfigure the signal, again you have to send another configured data or analog configured signal from the input. Okay, without sending any bit, you can change the analog signal. But in digital signal, just change the bit, your data will be changed. So you can reconfigure the digital data very easily. Another point, important point, is that the frequency. Suppose for a low frequency range, a analog signal will be like that. For a very low frequency range, it is very tough to understand. If we change the frequencies from low to high, so it will be like that. So for low frequency range, it is very tough to understand an analog signal. But if we represent that analog signal in a digital signal, whatever the frequency range is, that it will be represented by 0 and 1. So whenever the processor will try to understand, it will understand only 0 and 1. So whatever the frequency range, it will be very easily understandable in digital signal processor. Okay, depending on advantages, some disadvantages also in there in DSP. The main disadvantage is that the system that we are generating is very complex and costly. The bandwidth is limited to a finite range. In an analog signal processor, you can represent the analog signal for an infinite range. But whenever you are using a digital signal processor, the range is finite. So what we are doing, we are representing the infinite range within a finite range. So as a result, finite word length effect happens. What is finite word length effect? That I will tell you in the future after 2 or 3 classes. Just now keep in mind, that as you are representing the infinite range of sequence in a finite range, so finite word length effect may appear. Power requirement is more for a digital signal processor. That is another disadvantage. Now, in digital signal processor, very important part is that sampling. To represent the analog signal into digital signal, we are sampling the signal. Now, if the sampling rate is low, what is happening? To get the output, the time taken is very high. So, total digital signal processor is dependent time of digital signal processor is dependent on the sampling rate. Now, slow sampling rate may be an issue for a digital signal processor. So, clear what are the point I have told you? One is the finite word length effect. Two is the, yes, please. Sampling rate, finite word length. Oh, okay. See, these are the four important disadvantage of a digital signal processor. Next important topic that already you have covered is jet transform. What happens is jet transform? In jet transform, actually, we are providing the result in the form of complex signal. The input signal for a jet transform may be complex, may be real, but the output of a jet transform signal is complex signal. All of you know, I think. If Xn is your input signal, jet transform is defined as Xz, and that Xz is equal to, sorry, Xz is equal to minus infinity to infinity Xn z to the power minus n. So that is your expression for jet transform, where z is a complex variable. That z is a complex variable. That z is defined as r e to the power j omega, where r is what? R is your radius of circle in the z domain. Whenever you will represent a signal in the z domain, as it is complex, so it will have a real part of z and it will have a imaginary part of z, and the signal will be represented with respect to a circle. that circle radius with respect to the center point is defined as r, and the frequency, that is angular frequency, is defined as omega. So that is your Z transform. And in that Z transform, that is very important point, ROC. ROC is what? Region of convergence. So what is region of convergence? Region of convergence is that for a discrete time signal, for any discrete time signal, suppose xn is a discrete time signal, region of convergence is defined as a continuous region in Z plane where the Z transform converges. A continuous region in the Z plane. In that Z plane, ROC will define only that places where the Z transform, whatever the result, the Z transform XZ converges. That will be your region of convergence. Suppose a discrete transform Xn is given like that, a to the power n un. From that discrete transform, you have to understand what is ROC. So to understand that, first of all, what you have to do, you have to calculate the Z transform of the signal. To calculate the Z transform, already you know the equation. Summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity xn z to the power minus n. The value of xn is that a to the power n un, and un is what? Unit step. Characteristics of unit step is that value will be 1 for n greater than equal to 0 and 0 for n less than 0. 0 for n less than 0. So obviously, if we represent xn by a to the power n, that un will define that range from 0 to infinite, because minus 1 to minus infinite, it will range 0. So 0 multiplied by a to the power n will always be 0. So summation range will be n equal to 0 to infinite, and value of xn is a to the power n, and that is a to the power minus n. So if we represent that value, it will be 1 by 1 minus a z inverse. Now ROC defines that range should be greater than 0. To define ROC, 1 minus a z inverse, that mod of that range should be greater than 0. If this is, then if you calculate, you will get mod z greater than a. If you calculate that, you will get mod z greater than a. So for that system, ROC defines in the Z plane like that. That radius is a, and ROC will be outside that radius. ROC will be outside that circle because Z greater than a. Value of Z only exists for greater than a. So any value up to infinite range you will get ROC, but from a to 0 you will not get any value of z. So that is your ROC. Clear? Now one important characteristics of Z transform is that understanding of stability of a system is very easy in that transform. Means whether the system is stable or not, you can easily understand. How? Suppose to understand whether the system is stable or not, you need to understand or you need to consider a unit circle. You need to consider unit circle. Now, over that range or over that z axis, you have to plot the ROC of a system. Now, after plotting the ROC, if the ROC contained the unit circle, then the system will be stable. If the ROC does not contain the unit circle, the system will not be stable or the system will be unstable. Example, the same example I am considering. Suppose xn is given half to the power n even. In the last class already you have seen that this is a stable system. But in Z transform, I will prove that the system is stable. So simply what you will do, you will calculate xz. If you calculate xz, it will be n equal to 0 to infinite, as you have even half to the power n z to the power minus n. So what will happen? 1 by 1 minus half z inverse. So to calculate the ROC, that must be greater than 0. So ROC, if you calculate from here, that will be mod z greater than half. So to draw the ROC, you have to consider a half circle, and ROC will be that. Now this is your ROC greater than half, and one circle is within the ROC. Within the ROC, you are getting a circle with a radius 1. That means the system is stable. Okay. Sorry. Similarly, you can check for xn equal to 2 to the power n even. You will see that the system is unstable. Now, some properties of Z transform you have to keep in mind whenever you will work considering the Z region. The properties are, first one is linearity. That property defines x1n provides you after Z transform x1z, and x2n similarly provides you after Z transform x2z. a1 x1 n plus a2 x2 n will give you a1 x1z plus a2 x2z. Okay, if you want to show that how, so consider that is your xn, and make a Z transform of that sequence. Xz will be summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity a1 x1 n. We split this is one, this is one to different part plus summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity a2 x2 n. So that will be sorry, there will be a z inverse. So you can see that this two will give you what? A1 will be outside. Summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity x1 n z to the power minus n is basically your x1 z plus a2 will be outside. N equal to minus infinity to infinity summation x2 n z inverse z to the power minus n is your x2 z. So that is your linearity property. Second property is that time reversal property. In time reversal property, x of minus 1 will give you x of z inverse. You can check it also. If it is clear, if it is not clear to any of you, please ask me question. Okay, just it is not clear, please try to make us understand again. So xz is that summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity x of minus n z to the power minus n. So simply replace minus n by L. So what will happen here? L equal to minus infinity will be infinity, infinity will be minus infinity, or it will be remain same, infinity to minus infinity or minus infinity to infinity, both are same. So L equal to minus infinity to infinity x to the x of L z of z to the power L. Okay, so that z to the power L you can write as z inverse to the power minus L. If we represent by this, so z inverse to the power minus L. So what will be that? It will be x of z inverse. So if you have x of minus n, directly you can consider this as a x of z inverse in the z transform. Next property is that time shifting property. If we want to shift from one time to another time, simply xn provides you xz after z transform. Then what should be the value of xn minus n naught after z transform? That value will be z to the power minus n naught xz. Means whatever the value we are shifting, that will come here. For minus, it will be a minus. For plus, it will be a plus. Okay. Time shifting property defines that if xn after z transform is xz, then xn minus n naught shifting to minus n naught will give you a extra term z to the power minus n naught xz. Now, how it is coming to show that you have to calculate the z transform of x n minus n naught. So, if we try to calculate the z transform of x n minus n naught, that will give you summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity x n minus n naught z to the power minus n. Now, in the next term, we are representing z to the power minus n by z to the power minus n naught. So plus n naught is an extra term and I am minusing that n naught term. So I am representing z to the power minus n by this term. So it will be z to the power minus n naught minus n naught. And I am splitting that term as z to the power minus of n minus n naught one term into z to the power minus n naught. Now this z to the power minus n naught is independent of n. So I'm writing that term is in outside of the summation as z to the power minus n naught. So n equal to minus infinity to infinity. The remaining term is x of n minus n naught z to the power minus of n minus n naught. So that term and that term are same. So that summation you can write as xz. So z to the power minus n naught to xz, that is your result. So n minus n naught will give you a z transform of z to the power minus n naught xz. Okay, clear? Next, you have a scaling property. If we multiply, xn will give you xz. Then if we multiply that xn by another term, suppose a to the power n, then z transform of a to the power n will give a to the power n xn will give you that. Means whatever you are multiplying to the power will come to here. How? Again do the z transform of a to the power n xn. You will get a result like that. Suppose your xz is summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity a to the power n xn z to the power minus n. So what you will get? Summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity xn a inverse z whole to the power minus n. We can write that. So that is a to the power n, z to the power minus n. So your formula is xz equal to summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity xn z to the power minus n. So that will give you xz. That will give you xz. So a inverse z to the power minus n will give you x a inverse z. Okay, so that is your scaling property. Another last property for now you have to keep in mind is the differentiation property. Differentiation property. What is happening here? Xn will give you xz. So if you multiply xn by n, that will give you minus z dxz by dz. That is very important property. It is very useful whenever you will calculate the z transform for higher range. It will be very handy to all of you. Proof. How can we get that? So this is your xn. So xz will be n equal to minus infinity to infinity. Sorry, n equal to minus infinity to infinity. Xn z to the power minus n. That is your formula. So in that formula, if we try to calculate d by dz of xz, what we will get? Summation of n equal to minus infinity to infinity d by dz of xn z to the power minus n. So xn is independent to z. So that z to the power minus n will be derivative. So that z to the power minus n will be replaced by minus n. It will be replaced like that into to infinity xn z to the power minus n will be replaced by minus n z to the power minus n minus 1. So from here d by dz xz will be what? Replace z to the power minus n minus 1 as z to the power minus n multiplied by z to the power minus 1. So z to the power minus 1, that will come outside the summation as it is independent of n. Z to the power minus 1. Okay, I'm not step jamming, I'm doing all the step. N equal to minus infinity to infinity x n into minus n into z to the power minus n into z to the power minus 1. So that z to the power minus 1 will be in the outside the summation. So that is 1 by z, and we can take that minus also in the outside. So minus 1 by z. Remaining part is summation n equal to minus infinity to infinity n x n z to the power minus n. That is your remaining part. So after that, what you can write? Minus 1 by z. What do you mean by that term? Nxn, if that is your input signal, then it will be z transform of Nxn. That will be okay. So z transform of Nxn, that will give you, if you consider minus z to that side, so it will be minus z d by dz of xz. So that is satisfying. So Nxn, z transform of Nxn will give you minus z d by dz of xz. That is proved. Okay, so that is your differentiation property. Now you should try some problem at your home. I'm giving you some home task. Just write it down. Xn is equal to 2 to the power n un minus 4 to the power n u minus n minus 1. You have to calculate the exact. 2 is hn equal to minus 2 to the power n u minus n minus 1. 3 is xn equal to a to the power n. Sorry. It will be 2 to the power n. Thank you. It is 2 to the power n. A to the power n cos omega naught n un. Question number 4 is xn equal to sine omega naught n un. And question number 5 is you have to check the stability. Check stability for hn equal to 1 by 3 whole to the power n u minus n minus 2. That is 1. Second is hn equal to 3 to the power n un. C is hn equal to minus of 1 by 3 whole to the power n u minus n minus 1. And D is hn equal to 3 to the power n u minus n minus 1. So these are the home tasks. Try at your home. If you have any problem, you can contact me, you can ask me, or you can mail me, you can WhatsApp me. I'll give you the answer.